and that is the Suicide Squad.
What is this? Some kind of the Suicide Squad?
That's kind of what we do. Review.
It's kind of a thing.
Kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about this freaking movie.
So this is a sequel. It is a sequel to the 2016?
Yes.
2016 Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayer.
You had to say it, didn't you?
I mean, it's accurate information. But it does not necessarily bring everything.
I'd say it captured, like, the only thing it retains is the fact that there was a Suicide Squad.
I think it takes
And,
the
like, some of the
best.
characters.
It takes most of the best elements from that movie that were there, and it says let's put them in our movie. And they may not be the best elements in this movie. I think actually a number of them are really strong parts of the movie, but it does its own thing. That said, it still does exist in the DCEU as we know it.
Whatever that is.
Superman and Batman, all those other characters, not really in here, but definitely still in that world. So, Luke, I'm going to let you go first. What is your quick impression of the movie?
Quick impression of the movie, James Gunn just created one of the best comic book movies ever. That's my quick impression.
High praise.
High praise indeed.
Tyler, your thoughts. A penny for your thoughts.
I will do two things. I'm going to read my tweet, and I'm also going to agree with Luke. I do think this is one of the best comic book movies ever made. And it may, I'm still trying to decide if it is my favorite DC movie.
I feel like I'm with you on that. And I'm trying to hold off on deciding because I just think I have a recency bias at this point.
Yeah, I and that's why I said I'm still making the case.
Yep.
Like I still need to let some time pass, but because obviously I just watched it twice. My tweet was an extraordinary cast, great humor, and high octane action. The Suicide Squad delivers. What an absolutely fantastic movie! Can't wait to sit down and watch it again. That was prior to my second viewing. I would tweet that again and again. I think I again cannot wait to watch it. I'm so excited to sit down and watch it again.
Yep, same.
Yep. I think my kind of impression would be, I'm not going to read my tweet because it's just almost the exact same thing. But I think it continues DC's recent trend of providing a refreshing take in the superhero genre. We got something different with Shazam. We got something different with Birds of Prey. We're getting something different with the Suicide Squad, and it all feels connected still somehow. And that's what I really love about it, is that he's able to do so much, and yet make it feel fresh.
Yeah, I agree.
So, let's hop right into our pros and cons. What do you guys
Non-spoiler.
non-spoilers?
For
We're
now.
still in non-spoiler territory here. What are some of your guys' favorite aspects of the movie?
Everything.
Yeah, when you were setting up, Brett, Luke and I were kind of talking about this, right? It's like, how do I make a pro and con list? I'll just say it now. I don't have any cons. My pros list is I literally like everything about this movie.
Yep.
Like I don't want to just line everything out. But what I wrote here, and I feel like this is with any ensemble film that's half its salt. The cast chemistry was fantastic.
It's great.
I mean, the way they bounced off of each other, the way the emotional scenes all work, all of it is sold so well by the cast. It just makes every little thing in this movie work that much better. And I mean, I did not know. I've never seen the chick who played Ratcatcher.
She was so good.
But gosh dang it, man, she might be my favorite part of this movie.
Yep.
Like she's incredible. She's incredible, and her story in this movie is incredible. Like it's so good, and for reasons it resonates with me. And so, like, I don't know, watching it a second time, I was like, man, this hits a little closer to home than I care to admit, and it's kind of strange. And it's a character that can control rats. Didn't think I'd be relating to that person this past weekend, but here we are.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to quick echo on the cast. I think you mentioned, I cannot remember her name, but you mentioned the chemistry.
I can't say her name.
Chemistry
Daniela
overall.
Melchior,
The
Ratcatcher,
yeah.
Daniela Melchior.
Okay, she was fantastic. I wanted to talk about Joel Kinnaman and John Cena. They have just this. They have a number of really good scenes. Idris Elba is kind of mixed in there too, but they are so much of. They end up being kind of on two sides of the same coin, I'll say. And I love how both of them are portrayed in this. John Cena can act, after Fast and Furious. I was like, I'm not actually sure I'm excited about seeing John Cena in Suicide Squad, but you know what? This just proves to me that
The Suicide Squad.
the Suicide Squad. This just proves to me that if he's given the right script and the right character motivation and the right people to act against, he can do it.
He's been acting for a long time.
Well, yeah.
Here's what, and this is a prime example that directing matters. I always every now and again there's an actor, you'll see him in something, you're like, man, they just really weren't that good, and then you'll see him in something else and they'll just blow you away. And that's when I always it always hits me, and it hits me every single time. Directing matters. Like a director, whoever you hire as your director matters so much to get these performances. The most recent thing I can think of is Stephen Amell has been in Arrow, and he's fine. But the Heels trailer came out, and I was like, holy cow, that's the same dude. Like he does have a little bit of range. And so John Cena's kind of in that boat too with the Fast 9. You're kind of like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in this, you're like, oh man, he's really good.
Yep.
And the scene, Brett, that you're alluding to, yes.
So
Yes.
good.
So
Yeah.
good.
And we're talking really about the core of the cast, but I feel like it goes all the way down to the people in Waller's little room, to people that aren't in it as much. I feel like there was no person that was like, man, they kind of drug that scene down a little bit. Their performance, everybody really stepped up to the plate and delivered, no matter the size of the role. Yeah, I'd agree with the chemistry. Fantastic.
It's not a villain to talk about it's not a villain. It's not a spoiler to talk about the villain a little bit, is it?
Starro?
Everyone knows Starro is the villain.
I would disagree.
Too late. Now they all know.
Not that he's in.
Yeah.
That he's.
I
the
would
villain.
disagree as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would disagree as well.
Okay.
Everybody's a villain.
Everybody's well. So that's the thing, right? Like, the Suicide Squad are villains to a degree. Maybe not as presented in this movie. They may be more anti-hero.
He's definitely an antagonist that appears, though.
You're right.
Very strong antagonist.
Yes. He is an obstacle for them to overcome in some manner.
Indeed.
And I really liked what they did with him. They made me care about a freaking giant starfish.
That's right, baby. Oh, that's Starro. It's
Starro
not an actual comic.
the Conqueror.
It's metal.
It's a tin.
So while we are talking about Starro, one of the things I wanted to mention with him is I thought the CGI for anybody who is a CGI character looked really good. Specifically, the textures, the textures of King Shark, the textures of Starro, all of it looked really good. It looked really clean. It didn't look out of place, which I feel like when you do something that big, those characters were all so large. I feel like the room for error gets really, really big, and they did a good job of keeping it clean.
I would say the CGI, just the special effects in general, because this movie has way more practical than you'd think.
Mhm.
was really, really good. I think there was only
Yeah.
one moment in the entire movie where I was like, "Oh, that doesn't look as good as the rest did," only because
The rest looks so good.
the rest looked so good, and it was just a little uncanny valley because, like, we perceive when something that is human doesn't look normal as we perceive it, you notice it.
Oh,
And so I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, so I'm not gonna say. But it was for like half a second. I was like, "Oh, it's a little different," and I completely ignored it the rest of the movie because it didn't matter.
I'll be curious to hear where that is for you.
Yeah.
It's
But
it doesn't even matter at all. It's just something that's like, "Oh
Oh.
wow, that," and it still looked good.
Yeah.
Was the thing, like it looked how a lot of normal movies that have great CGI look, and it looked really good, and it was probably the worst looking part of the entire movie. I was impressed. It shows you can blend practical and special computer generated effects really well, and it's the best way to do it.
Yep.
Not just straight up CG and not just practical. I mean, that sounds like a nightmare.
So kind of, I'm gonna say it's kind of one of James Gunn's thing now. We have a banging soundtrack with lots of music. I called it banging because I think it's great. What did you guys think about the song choice and the soundtrack?
Loved it.
It's on my pros list.
Yeah.
No, I hated it. No, it was
Only
great.
con for the whole movie.
Yeah, I've been listening to it a lot this weekend as I've been driving around. It's a good mix of good songs, and they're all a little different, and I really like that.
Yeah. Agreed. Heavy
Yep.
agree. What else? What else we got?
A major pro for me was how dark this movie is, but yet how funny it is
Mm-hmm.
at the exact same time. Like, just there was one moment in the movie where I was laughing so hard, and I was like, "That's not funny." And I just couldn't stop laughing. Oh my gosh, I felt so bad for laughing, but it's just so well written and directed and performed by everybody. You all know, I think, what scene I'm talking about too.
I think if it's the one I think you're thinking about, it's my 2021 scene of the year.
Oh my gosh, dude! I was sitting in between you guys. You were dying.
I could not stop laughing.
You were dying. I think it made it even funnier for me. Too,
Probably.
just 'cause you're over
What
there.
scene? Give me a hint.
The camp.
Forest, jungle,
Okay.
jungle is the
Got it.
hint. But yeah, I was just to kind of echo that. Like throughout this movie, there are characters, actors, actresses who give great delivery of comedic lines in these like dire situations. One of the ones that was in the trailer, so it's in the trailer, so I'm going to talk about it, is when like they're in the debriefing room or the briefing, not debrief, but briefing room, and they're kind of talking about everything, and King Shark is like hand, and Idris Elba is like, we're all gonna die, and
Poke it up, man.
Dave.
I hope so.
I hope it's just the most like sincere way.
It's so perfectly
and it's
done.
just like it's a perfectly delivered, super dark line,
oh.
and it works so well. And those are scattered throughout this entire movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, great blend of that in with action
Oh,
and
it's so dark
just
sometimes. Though.
incredible stakes too.
Yeah.
Because James Gunn is not afraid to just kill off characters, which we won't talk about who dies and when or where, but it happens. It happens.
Yeah, I mean the slogan, literally as you're sitting in the theater, is "Don't get attached."
Yeah.
I mean it's.
Unfortunately,
No,
I got
don't.
attached.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
God, this is a big bummer a lot of times in this movie. It's like, darn it!
Yeah, I was really. There's one in particular that I'm pretty upset about.
Yeah.
but that's
For spoilers, we'll save those for spoilers.
yeah, we'll save it.
Can we talk about the pacing? We talked about pacing last week in The Green Knight and how sometimes a slow film is fine. You can make slow paced film good. This is an incredibly quick, at least especially the first act is incredibly fast paced.
Mhm.
It actually doesn't really take a break until you hit the second act.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about it. It doesn't waste any time.
Just right from the get-go, they're like, here we go. It doesn't
Yep.
really stop for, 15 minutes at least? And you're just like, oh
It's
my
like the first-
god,
yeah.
what is happening?
And they do a good job too of like, they did a good job. This is not about pacing. I apologize. I'm segueing off.
So
Uh,
unprepared.
Of not spoiling a ton, or with the trailers, they keep things vague enough where the first 5 minutes, I'm like, I kind of figured that this would happen like almost an hour into the movie, and we're here already. And
Mhm.
they do a good job of like
I also
spinning it around in a way that it makes complete story sense, and the trailer didn't necessarily give anything away.
I think something that really helps the pacing and with that is the non-linear way of telling the story.
I was hoping you would
But
bring
then
this up.
also they do like it's feels like there's not acts, there's chapters. Like there's headers in this movie.
Yeah, the
I-
little
I
titles.
really
It's
enjoyed
like a
that.
book. It's the movie is made like a book,
It's like straight out of a comic
and I
book. Yeah.
freaking loved it every time. And actually, my next pro was titles.
Mm.
Titles. I like the use of those. I actually, Luke, I leaned over to you at one point. I was like, dude, these title things are
I
so
remember during
sick.
the one that had like rusty nails in it.
Yes.
The Jotunheim one.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You were like, "Oh, I like that one a lot." When I think it's crazy.
Yeah, and then
I
watching
think
it.
a lot of them are practical too, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one last night when I watched it again, the Jotunheim one.
I feel like
it's so cool.
the,
Like pans around, and you can see how they had like changed the levels and planes of everything to make it spell it out. And I was like, man, that's so sick.
I want to see how many of those
Are real.
Like I could see the one on the beach that says "now" be real. They just like had leaves attached and they just pull them and the rest blow away. Like I feel like that's something they would do.
Or just do it in reverse
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yep.
That'd be interesting to figure that out.
I want the 4K for this so bad so I can watch that stuff. I'm gonna eat it up.
Yeah, I man, 4K for sure.
So there's a lot of action in this movie. A lot of gory action in this movie.
Yeah, that's something we didn't yet mention, but it is fairly graphic in nature. It's R-rated.
They earn it pretty easily,
Oh yeah.
even without the dong shot.
Yeah, I didn't think that was necessary. There you go. There's my one con for this movie.
Yeah, sure. I'll agree with that.
I didn't need the penis in there.
It will get some
especially
giggles,
considering who it's not a specific,
What's going on.
a specific person, but like when you learn about like who that group of people is, like seems a little tasteless.
That's kind of the theme of the movie, though, too. It goes
That's
along with
true.
it.
Yeah.
Like, this is just
good
a
point.
bunch of tasteless, horrible people doing awful things because of an awful person making them do it.
Yes.
I think my last pro that I want to mention, and I don't want to turn this into a bashing session of I need my table, a bashing session of the 2016 Suicide Squad movie, but one of the things that movie did a horrible job of doing is like, rather than showing us that they were bad people,
Told us.
they told us.
Yeah.
We talk about that all the
And
time.
in this movie, they show you these are not good people, and it's very, very clear within the first 3 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
What is Luke doing?
Oh, the podcat is coming to say
Oh,
hi.
Podcat's at the door. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they show us, and there's a scene in particular where you start to see one of the characters kind of feel like, all right, maybe I shouldn't do this, but then they're just like, nah, I'm gonna do it.
Yep.
I'm gonna, because this is who I am. I'm not changing. I'm not a hero, and like I don't know. I really appreciated that, and it didn't. It made me. I kind of talk about this a lot. I used to talk about it a lot with the Marvel movies, but I didn't feel like my intelligence was insulted. Like
Mm,
I'm smart enough to pick up that they are bad people,
yeah.
and even though they might be doing quote unquote a good thing in the story's eyes, which not really, but I'm smart enough to pick up that they're still bad characters.
It'll be interesting talking during spoilers about some of that because I feel like there's a couple characters who I won't name names, but who make it to the end who have less of that. So it'll be, but that's for the most part, I absolutely agree.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a number of characters who you're like, oh, they would be like a really cool hero. Oh, but wait. They're
Yeah.
still very self-serving, or they do something for the wrong reason and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff. So,
Yep.
yeah, I appreciate that a lot as well.
Yep.
They did give us villains.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Luke, any other pros you want to talk about before we jump into spoilers?
No.
Okay, well then let's give our reviews, our ratings. We kind of talked about it.
We're starting over.
Tyler, what do you rate this?
Booyah.
Ooh, I love it. Coming in hot. Luke.
You go first, please. You go first, Brett.
I'm gonna give it a fanboy worthy. And a high fanboy worthy. This is an easy fanboy worthy for me. I don't think it's a perfect film. I had a ton of fun with it. But it's, I don't know, for me it's just not quite a booyah. I don't know how else to describe it, especially without spoilers. But I love it. Highly recommend it. It gets a fanboy worthy.
I'm really struggling here, boys. Because, like, quality-wise, it's an easy booyah for me.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, with our rating/recommendation scale...
Well, give it your rating and then recommend it.
We
You don't have to
did
give
talk
your
about this, though.
your recommendation. Yeah, don't think of it as a recommendation rating. Give it your
Quality
your
rating?
heart.
Booyah, then.
Okay.
We talked about this, not like with R-rated movies a while back, is like, how do you recommend it? And I think we had come to the consensus that it's based on how we feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I give it a booyah. If I'm recommending it, it's fanboy worthy.
Okay.
But based on the quality
Man,
of
we
the
need
movie,
a
I
we
think
need
it's
a
booyah.
we need to recalibrate our recommendation system. Luke's
Yes.
confused. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I
It's a
remember-
booyah. I think it's one of the best comic book movies ever made. There's nothing I didn't like about it. It was so much fun. I don't know how something like so dark could make me laugh
Could
so
be
much.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Booyah.
Awesome. So that's 2 booyahs and a fanboy. That's highly recommended from us if you are not big into gore.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it. But other than that, if you can handle a little language, there's what 2 brief instances of nudity.
So quick.
So
barely
quick.
noticeable.
Not in any kind of sexual nature at all.
Yeah.
Just body parts because they exist. They're on people.
They're both there for almost less than a second, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's super fast. Yeah, the gore thing was my wife's only complaint.
Yeah.
It is very gory. Let's talk spoilers.
Okay.
Let's talk spoilers.